we define pain as pain are the reasons people buy. And if there's no pain, there's no sale.
That's what we want to do here. We want to take you to the next level. We want you to achieve your goals.
John Whitehall, sales trainer extraordinaire, the sales guru, just joined TikTok. John, the sales guy. Make sure you go on there and follow him, because I know you follow him on everything else. But if you want to be cool, you want to be jazzed out, you want to be real, you want to go on TikTok and make sure you follow John, the sales guy. John, thanks for coming in, brother. How you doing?
Thanks, Brother Freddie. It's great to be here, man. It's a real thrill. Thanks.
All right, man. How was that? Good intro for you guys?
Yeah, that was pretty good. I like that.
I forgot it already.
Okay.
I'll have to try to figure it out for next week.
Great.
We'll just transcribe it for you for next week.
Transcribe it. And I'll read it. You know, those good
Oh,
things.
man.
Cool, man. So, yo, thanks for coming in, bro. I think for you guys that don't know, the reason why we asked John back in this week was because we had a killer impromptu live session last Wednesday,
On TikTok.
which ended up being really, really good and like great questions, even to the point where all three of us were, you know, enamored by your answers
Yeah.
that you gave us last
Enamored.
week. Enamored.
It's a big
And
one.
a lot of the kids on TikTok loved it as well. And I know they're going to be following you either today or whenever we do some duets or something good. But but you've always had good knowledge, dude. And I've always respected you. I've always respected everything you taught me. And I tell a lot of people a lot of the time that, you know, when I came here, I was super green, trying to learn Brooks County, trying to see what goes on here. And then you were gracious enough to invite me to your classes. And, you know, a lot of times you think you go to these things and nothing sticks, or like, I'll have to remember that. And then you start to realize that your sales process, your organization, the way you do business every day actually does get affected, whether it be subconsciously or you don't even notice it. To the point now where I remember you telling me, you know, always identify pain points when you talk to clients. Make sure you organize yourself and only have meetings on certain times during the week, on certain days. You know, so there's a lot of knowledge that you've given me. So, excuse me, we need a cough button on these things.
You're all right? You're getting choked up?
I'm getting choked up talking to John, the sales guy. Let me take a mug from my awesome Fred Talk mug. So, yeah, man, other words, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. You know, just a couple things I remember about when I first met you. You know, the one thing you said to me is well, first of all, I'm a surfer, so I speak dude, and so does Freddie. So we had this common language, and as soon as we sat down together, it was like, dude this, dude that.
Bro.
Yeah, and then he was trying to really push me out of my shell and, you know, do social media and things like that. And I really hadn't, in my own mind, really understood why it was of value to me. You know, for me, when Facebook came out, I really didn't want anything to do with it because I had no interest in all at having my past come back to haunt me. And so, and he said to me, he said, but dude, you're a cool dude. You're a surfer. I never met a surfer who wasn't cool.
Right.
I remember you said those words to me. But I'm so grateful and feel kind of warm and fuzzy inside of everything that you just regurgitated back to me that I taught you. I mean, it's great. Thank you for listening.
There you go.
I mean, hey, it was in our
listening.
one of our very first TikToks. Like, your knowledge came through because I asked him, I was like, hey, how do you start your day? Or how do you start your week good? And he said, no meetings on Mondays. So that's how he did that.
No means that's right.
So,
Preserve
John,
your space.
yeah, I thought that was a really good one because, like, you don't really think about that. You think, oh, that way you don't have to dread Mondays either, like, on top of everything else. So that was a really cool point. But so, John, when we were talking about just, like, to give everyone a little bit more background on, like, your sales knowledge and where this all came from, I know you spoke on last Wednesday a little bit about the industries that you were in and what you're doing now. But if you want to just kind of like take it away for a couple minutes and just share more about you, and then we want to get into that discussion about sales versus marketing.
Sure. And last week was a fabulous experience. I walked in, you guys were already rolling, and it's just like, sit here. And all of a sudden I'm answering questions. It was very exciting, I have to say. So you guys are super chill to be with. So I've been a career sales manager my whole life. I've sold and have managed salespeople, which are two completely different skills. You know, managing salespeople, that's cat herding. That's a little bit different than the blocking and tackling, which I teach. But 30 years of experience managing sales professionals. So I am basically a psychologist of sorts, right? Because, selling is kind of a Broadway play directed by a psychologist. It's kind of the way it is. And the last company I was with, I got engaged with the Sandler Training people. And for those of you who don't know Sandler, I'm a Sandler franchisee. Sandler is the worldwide leader in sales and sales management training. We're in something like 25 different countries and 14 different languages. And we train, or worldwide, we probably train something like 30,000 plus people per year. So, and in my last gig in corporate America, for the last 6 years that I was involved, I was a client of Sandler. And we almost tripled the size of the company in 6 years. I mean, you want to talk about wild success. But the company I was with really was just about money, 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 money. And they really didn't build the organization to make this sustainable. And over a period of time, I really started to burn out. I was really unhappy. I was probably suffering from depression and all those sorts of things that I didn't even realize. And finally, I went to them and I said, boy, I got to thank you guys. You've made me wildly successful. I mean, I'm playing on a big stage. At this point, the company was almost a $1 billion company. It was a big, big business. And I said, but I've never been so miserable in my life. Can you imagine that? You have all the success in the world, and yet you're miserable because, you're fielding calls at 10 o'clock at night. You're trying to get up at 4 in the morning, trying to get ahead of this thing, which in your heart of hearts you'll never will. And I finally went to the Sandler people and I said, but you guys look like you're having a lot of fun. I want to do what you do. And talk about a move of courage, walked away from a great job and a really good company, and moved home to Reading, Pennsylvania, which we're broadcasting from today, and started my own business a little over 5 years ago. So that's how it started. That's where I met our man Freddie here. The rest, as they say, is history.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah, it was awesome. It was I felt very fortunate to meet John. I feel like John, my buddy Don Carrick, and Jim Holler, we all kind of were started aroundish the same time-ish.
Yeah, we
I like to say in BCNA, and I like the story of us all growing. I see all of us growing together and all of us doing pretty well in our respective careers, which is definitely a plus. I mean, I love that we're all successful in our own ways. So, yeah, man. I mean, I've learned a lot from John specifically. I think you guys should definitely just check him out on LinkedIn and follow all his stuff. He's always giving away free talks. Definitely sign up for one of those for sure. And, build on your sales, man, because they're super important. And a lot of people don't really take the time to, I guess for lack of a better term, learn how to sell. Obviously a lot of the times people say it's a gift, which I think being a natural at it is probably a gift. But definitely, learning the basics of selling and learning, I guess, almost like the psychology of selling, is very super important. That's one thing you definitely opened up the doors to me. It wasn't even just about selling to people one-on-one to get them to buy your stuff. It was more about the psychology of how everything works.
Right.
Yeah.
Why people answer the way they do, why people do the things that they do. In fact, when people come to me for training, they're really amazed that really the first half is learning about themselves. And we try to understand ourselves, and once we understand ourselves, we can see traits in others. And if selling is a game of inches, we want to try to move closer to the people who we're selling to, build trust, because trust is everything. And if we need to just adjust our own personal styles to be closer to the people who we're talking to and dealing with, we're going to do that, right? And so that's I think what you're alluding to.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it was really cool because so I have a psychology background, and
I'm in trouble now.
No, it's not that bad.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, and so for me, when I was going into just career after college and stuff, I went straight into door-to-door sales. And
Oh, really?
yeah.
Wow.
It was-
Mad respect for you.
It was pretty intense. But I realized I was using my degree because of that. Unfortunately, my one professor once, she's like, I'm going to teach you a lot of things in this class. It was like a critical thinking class. And she's like, but you have to promise you will not use it for bad. and manipulation.
Well,
You will
use
use
it
it
for
for good.
I'm going to give you these superpowers. Don't use them for
Yeah,
evil.
and I realized that though within sales of like the tactics that you use, and even just like the way you can speak to someone, just flipping a word changes a whole perspective. So I realized then like what she meant by using it for good or evil, and I'm able to at least like use that not a lot, but I use the psychology a lot here as well. But I thought, with sales versus marketing and going into that, I feel like the psychology background must be really important and like really interesting for people to learn.
Whitley, tell me, what did you sell?
Sold energy.
You sold energy. So you were door to door helping people save on their electric bills and things like that?
Mm-hmm.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I almost was homeless.
That's how good she was.
That's how good. Yeah. No, it was just, it was one of those like, the MLMs. And so I went down there and I was in what I think I told you once, but it was really hard because in some areas of Jersey where I was working, like, you just get dropped off and then you go and
You
sell.
just upped the game. Now you're selling door to door in Jersey. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
And
Sorry to
it
interrupt.
was like in Ewing and Trenton and some of the really roughest places I've ever seen. But I felt really bad. And like eventually I just realized it wasn't going to work out for me just because I was upping people's like their electric bills there. Like I couldn't front and say I'm not, and I felt bad for lying. And then I'd go to Wilmington, Delaware, and I was helping them. So there was like a give and take on where in the States like it was, but yeah, it was a rough time.
You bring up ethics, right? And,
Yeah.
My goodness. The thing about selling is that, no one says this to their child when they're small, right? When they're 2 or 3 years old and you're tucking them in at night. Nobody ever said this to you, Whitley. Whitley, I hope when you grow up, I hope you don't become a doctor, a lawyer, or president of the United States. I really hope you become a sales professional. No one ever says that. So there's a stigma that lies heavily on anybody who sells.
Yeah.
People seem to think that it's a, it's
car
the-
salesman.
Yeah,
That
the
like
car
stigma.
salesman. Right.
John loves car salesmen.
Oh, I love car salesmen. I love them as like a sport. I love them. So if there's a Mount Rushmore of bad sales behavior, one of the four faces, maybe George Washington, is a car salesman.
Mm-hmm.
They just are. So there's this stigma attached. People think, oh, wow, he's got a sales job. It's the last stop before terminal unemployment, right? Or your kid comes home and says, I got a sales job, and guess what? They told me I could work on a base or commission, or I could have unlimited income and just work on commission. So I took the unlimited option. And then Dad says, Marge, he's moving in. Get his room ready, right? Because, I'm here to tell you that it's a noble profession and that we all sell. I love companies who don't have sales anywhere in their organization. They sugarcoat it with something else. It's business development specialist or relationship manager, is another popular one. They don't want to use the S word. I'm here to tell you it's okay.
Right.
We all sell. No matter what we do, we're selling every day.
Yeah.
That's true. I sold my wife on marrying me.
Yeah,
That's probably my biggest sale to date.
and that was before I even trained you.
That's
So,
right.
you
So
know,
I'm a natural, I
you
think.
were already good.
I sold myself
pretty good.
when I came and interviewed. No experience, and I got the job.
Sure you do. Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
because she sold her drive.
Yeah. And it's interesting when companies say, well, we don't really have a sales department. And I'll say, well, what do you call that activity when you don't have any business and you need more? Right? Help me
What's that
understand.
called?
Tell me, what's that called? Do you do a rain dance? What do you do? What's that activity? And then worse yet, you ask people, well, describe your sales process. And boy, that's a question that I usually get this silence, and then they'll say, well, Freddie gets the order, he gives the order to Whitley, it goes to Marge over in accounting, it goes to procurement, and they're describing this operational flow rather than what they say and do when they're in front of a prospect. Yeah, so we wing it. I'm sure you've got.
You know what? Just I have to say this before we move on. I am astounded at how many people invited me into their homes. I was shocked. On my first day, I was there. This old lady, she's like, oh, you can come in and just tell me what you're doing and while I cook. she's having these like live crabs and she's making this dinner and this one doesn't go into the pot and it's running it across the counter. This is my first day of door-to-door sales. I was like, what did I just
That's amazing though. That's so cool.
That's cool though.
I know, but I was just really shocked because, like, you know, I grew up like, no, don't answer the door. It's probably just whatever, Jehovah's Witness or salesperson, and then like that's it.
Yeah.
But
Don't talk to strangers.
Yeah,
I still do that here. I lock the door all the time. Dominic makes fun of me for locking the back door and I walk in, so I use both locks.
I know.
He's like, I know when you're here. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, because the door in the back's always locked, both locks.
Yeah, and then I have to get up and end.
Yeah,
But
you can't take
No.
New York out of the boy.
You got to
know what I
cover
mean?
yourself in case it goes down.
That's for
I
sure.
gotcha.
Yeah,
so I
look at
was
my
like
desk.
very surprised by that in the sales like field. But so because even though we're mainly for our customers, we're mainly marketing and branding focused. What is your view on marketing?
Oh gosh, well this is a loaded question, and I'm not going to offend anybody in the room, but you know this is my I know, but this is. So let me tell you what's typical. Okay, what's
I want a clean
typical
fight.
is- no. Okay, so what's typical in a company where there's perhaps a sales department and a marketing department? Smaller companies, their sales and marketing kind of mashed up together. That doesn't always go well. But if there's sales and marketing always thinks that selling is really easy. And oh, by the way, they think that they can do it better than you can. Okay? And they will say things to you like you'll come back just whooped, your tail between your legs, you've gotten beaten, you know, somebody said no to you, and they'll say, well, how'd it go today? You say, well, didn't go really well. And the marketing guy will say, well, didn't you show them the gorgeous marketing materials? Didn't you read them the brochure? All you had to do is read them the brochure. We've done all the work for you. All you have to do is present this.
It's true. That's true.
Right, and it's kind of true. And sales needs marketing because we need those things at our fingertips as leave behinds, talking points, whatever. But that usually doesn't carry the day. It's the things that we say and do. Now, let's face it, they could buy marketing and social media and websites and all the things that you do from a lot of different places in town, probably right on the street we're sitting on, right? But they buy it from you. Why?
Because of me.
Because of you.
You sold it.
Because you sold them.
All
right?
day long.
Right? And people, companies often talk about, particularly owners will say things like, how come I'm the only person in this company who can sell our value proposition? I'm the only person who can sell our product at full price. And they really miss the mark here because they think that it's their product. They'll say things like, well, we treat our customers like family. Our service is second to none. Folks, those are antes just to get in the game. If you don't have that, you're no longer in business.
Correct.
But at the end of the day, it's what we bring as people to the company as the value added piece. Right? The value is really in the people.
Yeah.
All day long. That's why I tell people a lot of the time, like when we build new websites for clients, I tell them the About Us page is super important. It's one of the most visited pages on any website now. It's totally changed. People want to know who they're doing business with. They want to know more about the people. And, you know, that's why a lot of the times, though you may disagree with me, how you said, well, you should always put your prices on the website to cut out those other people that you don't want to get your time wasted, which I understand. But I know I'm not the cheapest game in town, that's for sure. I'm not the most expensive, I'm not the cheapest. But I always feel like when I can get a phone call going or I'm talking to somebody face to
Then you can
face,
get it.
it's almost like, dude, like you literally just cannot afford it, flat out can't afford it. It's probably the reason why you'll say no, because I've had people and clients actually come in here, scoff at me when I show them how much it costs. Yet they'll call me a day or two later and go, okay, when do we get started?
You're the best choice.
After you were sitting there going, this guy's insane. I even had one client tell me the story of how they had the meeting. It was two of them. They left and started laughing when they left the office. They're like, we literally laughed and said, what's this guy out of his mind? And then a few hours later, they both said they called each other and said, how are we going to come up with this cash? Like, that's it. And I'm like, exactly. Because it's all about, you know, selling is so important. Even when you get the training and you're a lot more, you know, educated in the process, it's definitely still an art form, I think, because it's definitely like you need to know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
That's the other thing too. Like you can talk to There's people who are desperate. There's people who are not desperate. There's people that are like, you just happen to get in front of them, yet they don't give two shits about what you're saying, but yet you can still turn them over. Like, there's different ways to handle different situations. But sales and marketing they're two different things, but then they're not two different things. They definitely go hand in hand. One needs the other. Like, marketing is nothing without the sales.
No question.
And sales is nothing without the marketing. Like, you
That's
need
right.
both of them. And I just feel very privileged to be able to hang in both fields.
Yeah.
Where a lot of the time it's hard. And I'm not saying I'm like the best salesman on the planet, but I'm pretty good. You know, and I had a good trainer, so like I'm definitely there.
Trainer.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I was when I was like researching these topics and just understanding of, you know, how sales is a lot of asking, and then marketing is storytelling. And so you like going into here and saying like, hey, like, how much, you know, if you have a service, you know, what is your overhead or whatever, what is this? You might ask like 30 questions so you can get those pain points and then say, okay, well, this is what you could get and this is what you would offer and this is how much you would save. Where marketing is because you're putting out a campaign, you're like storytelling, like, hey, like if, you know, you're using this product and things like that, your whole life could change. You'll be, you know, this is what you'll see every month. And, you know, kind of like making a huge vision before you'd even tell them what they would, like all that stuff.
Yeah,
so
marketing really presents the outcome, doesn't it?
That's
you
a
know,
good
this is where we're going. Yeah. But good for you that you know what pain points are. You know,
Yeah.
because that's very much the school that I'm from. And, you know, we want to ask questions, really specific questions, and they're called pain because, you know, sometimes we make people uncomfortable. We're asking questions that maybe they've never been asked before.
Yeah.
And they've never answered aloud. And once it's on the table, it's part of a conversation.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, it's all about the conversation. So pain points are really, really important. We define pain as pain are the reasons people buy. And if there's no pain, there's no sale. But really, in front of that, if we haven't built trust, we aren't going to find truth. Unless we've had some bonding rapport, we kind of get to know each other, things like that. When we ask these pain questions, if there's no trust, people will be, let's just say, perhaps less than honest with us. So if there's no trust, there's no truth. And if there's no truth, there's no pain. And if there's no pain, there's no sale. Right? And you mentioned the money part of things, that, you know, everybody has a different idea of their money concept. You know, everybody, you know, it's not polite to talk about money. Don't talk to strangers, not polite to talk about money. And when we sell, we're doing both of those things all the time. And depending on how you were raised and perhaps even geographically, here in the Northeast, it was not polite to talk about money. You know, I never had this conversation with my family at the dinner table sometime in November. I never said, hey, Dad, say how are we doing this year? We're going to have a good Christmas? We're going to have a bonus? Right? And if I asked how much that guy's car costs across the street, my mother would like slap my hand. You know, it was just not polite to do that. So depending on how ingrained that is in our brains, we will have varying degrees of comfortability, let's say, when we talk about money. And for some people, the answer is, you know, they will undervalue themselves, or they will always be negotiating backwards. And sometimes I tell people, well, good way to cure that is to post your prices. People know where it is. And to your point, it will shake out some pretenders. But when you're selling marketing and I'm selling sales, it isn't so easy to post your offering because we're developing custom solutions for each other. So there's a little more gamesmanship going on.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, just so you guys know, ask some questions. Like, this is the time.
I do have a question.
Oh, let's do it.
I'm not really sure what he means, but somebody asked about Google Plus codes and if that helps your business. I don't know what they are, though.
Well, if you're talking about Google Plus died. So it no longer works. So if you're still listening, please expand on your question. We would appreciate it. Google Plus is no longer offered as a service. But for you guys out there, make sure you ask any questions. We got John here, Sandler Training, John the Sales Guy on TikTok. Make sure you follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all those great things. Get out there. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. Angie and the rest of the team here, we're getting ready to start making real videos, put them out on YouTube, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the new content that we are putting out. We're putting that out on a weekly basis. And don't forget to follow John on TikTok.
Yes. He's
Big
going to
time.
start putting the knowledge out.
If anybody is having trouble hearing our audio or choppy video, please head over to Facebook. That has the podcast mics on it, and you'll be able to get better sound quality there.
There you go. We're still working on it, work in progress.
Yeah.
There you go.
We're rocking and rolling, though. Check out the podcast and the YouTube videos for beautiful audio.
So for the audience and anyone that's like just wanting to know a little bit more about how to implement sales into their small business or things like that, since a lot of small business owners are doing it all, could we talk about the pain points briefly? Like kind of what would some be for people, or kind of how would, if I was a customer, like how would they even bring that up if they don't know?
So let me try to think of a good example. So, a pain would be perhaps something they bring up when you're meeting them. I mean, there has to be a reason that they're inviting you in, a reason to have a conversation, and you'd start there. And perhaps, let's say I'm going to sell you sales training. Okay, we can role play here.
Yep.
You get to be the customer, so you have the easy part,
Oh,
right?
boy.
Tell me, what business do you have? You can make something up. It could be
I
fun.
have a photography business.
Photography business. Okay. And so we're meeting. We're at a networking event. We're meeting. It's non-COVID times. Perhaps we're having a drink. Whatever it is. And you mentioned to me that you have a problem with
Sales.
sales.
Getting sales for my photography
people
business.
through the door. And I might say to you, well, what's your prospecting vehicle? How do you find new people?
I don't. I just let them come to me.
You stand in a corner at a networking event and look good?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I guess like I would, go up to someone, or if a lot of times it's like referrals. So I honestly like
Social media.
Yeah.
All right. So
but
social media.
yeah, I use social media.
Okay.
for
But
most.
you're looking for more business. Right?
Yeah, I would like more steady business, like where I know every couple months I have like a few, but like right now I'm just kind of
So I'd ask
not
you some
doing
pain
too
questions.
much.
So what kind of things have you tried?
I have tried Facebook ads once. I got one from it. It was good. I got business cards. I have to hand them out.
Okay. So it sounds like you
I haven't put much sales effort, so I don't
Okay.
know if this is a good example.
So I can ask you a question. How's that working for you?
I mean, I booked 2 weddings in my first 8 months.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's going good because I'm like Freddie, where I feel like my sales is coming because of my work and because of just me being me, like outgoing or fun or whatever. And so that portrays in my social media maybe. But
So we're kind of free form winging it here
Right.
a little bit. You
but
got a couple of
I would
weddings
like,
here.
yeah, but
But
I
you
would like
want more.
structure. Yeah. So
Okay. Yeah. So I could then add, I could probably go in a direction like, okay, what else have you tried?
Ask her about her website.
Tell me about your whatsite.
Well, my website is a third of the way done. I have it all done except for I just bought my domain name. Yeah, domain name.
Yep.
And then I have to buy hosting. So I haven't done the hosting because it was like Chinese to me. So I was just like by that point I was like 10 o'clock at night. I was like, never mind.
Okay.
So that's how I am with that.
So when you meet someone, do you have a real process? For your conversation?
If I randomly like met someone, I feel like I would just, we talk about like, oh, what do you guys do? And I say, yeah, I do social media, but I'm also a freelance photographer. I'm trying to get that business started up. And I go in the storytelling mode. I started like 6 months ago during COVID, and it's been progressing, and I really love it. And then I would say I don't ever like pitch to them like, hey, here's my business card. I almost never have them on me, so that's probably it too.
Have you ever written a real 30-second commercial?
No, I haven't done which is good. I should do like an elevator speech.
Yeah, you should.
But I haven't.
All right,
John's the king.
So there we go. There's
We'll circle back to that. Okay. So how much money do you think you're leaving on the table?
a lot.
With your website like under construction.
Halfway and
We don't
paying
quite-
for it already.
We don't quite have a
and-
process other than to look good at networking events, stand in the corner, right?
It sounds a lot more
So we're
pathetic when
kind
you
of
start breaking
winging
down.
it. We're kind of winging it, right?
Yes, we're
Yeah.
totally winging
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Okay, you know what they say about winging it. We've got birds here, so yeah. So all right. So do you think it'd be better if you had a real structured process?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about what that would sound like?
No.
Yeah.
I'm a great example for this. This is terrible.
You are. How do you feel right now? Just
I feel embarrassed.
Let's get out of the role play. How do you feel right now?
I feel embarrassed.
Are you in pain?
Slightly.
Yeah, there you go.
Because you like.
See? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have this progression of pain questions. You know, how's that working for you? What else have you tried?
Because it makes you start to realize, wow,
Right,
there
right.
is a lot of other
You know,
stuff I'm not doing.
What
or-
else have you tried? What happens if we don't fix this? What happens to your little business?
I fail
Yeah, what?
miserably and work for Freddie for the
Right,
rest of my
right.
life.
And how much
the
money?
worst.
How much money do you think you're leaving on the table? Right? Is that a lot of money to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to make people feel a little bit uncomfortable by asking them some really tough questions. And we're not doing it in a mean-spirited way. We're not doing it at all to we're doing this, we're coming from a nurturing side where we're not telling people what to do. We're really helping them self-discover by asking these pain questions.
I like that self-discover.
I do have a question from TikTok. So somebody did ask about pain points, actually. So while you guys were doing that role play, I kind of did answer that question from Vinny. However, we have another question on TikTok for John saying, how do you get customers that you've been shopping 20 plus years at your competitors? So I'm guessing they're saying, how do you get them to convert if they've been a loyal customer to a previous business beforehand?
It's a good one.
Drugs.
Yeah, that's
Drugs.
And money.
Oh my gosh.
Alcohol.
Well, that was the way it was done when I was growing up. Believe me, I spent 20 years in the beer business. That was how business was done.
It's not hard with alcohol.
Yeah, we'd sell and deliver the beer, and then we'd go buy it back. Yeah, it was that was the business model. Yeah. So you need a point of difference, and as I said to you, everybody sells really the same way. They're selling the way that they have been sold to. But if you can get in a conversation with them and go through a pain progression, or even the way that you set up the meeting, you want to sound different than your competitors. If you're doing the same thing as your competitors are doing, stop doing it right away.
Yep.
You need to do something different, right? And it can be just the way you present yourself. Freddie's great at this. I mean, everything he has is branded, logoed, and unique. You can see that coffee mug from 100 yards away and know it's his, right? That's branding.
Yes, sir.
I mean, that's branding. And he's very much a pattern interrupt, And so pattern interrupts are when you say or do something that's unexpected, but it makes you memorable. It makes you different than your competitors.
What is it called? Pattern interrupt?
Pattern interrupt.
Okay.
Pattern interrupt. Where you
Love it.
say
Yeah,
or
I
do
like that.
something different.
I love that you
Then
guys
what
are
cross-
listening to this for the first time. Like Whitley's like, ooh, pattern interrupt.
pattern
And like
interrupt.
everybody in TikTok land, Angie's paying attention.
Yeah.
And I'm like, everybody's just like, and I'm like,
I'll
yeah.
take one of those.
I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. And like, again, subconsciously, like, I don't know that it's called pattern interrupt. Like, I forget that it's called that.
Yeah.
But my mind is knowing, like, yeah, I need to be different from everybody else. That's how you get all the sales.
So people walk in here. You've got dogs. You've got parakeets. We've got you.
A zoo.
Right? And you are not your typical marketing executive.
No.
You are not. You're in a t-shirt. You're wearing your catchphrase, your logo. We walk in. You walk into your office. It's you, baby. Everything on the walls of that place is you.
Yeah.
And so that's what I think makes you refreshingly different, and you are a pattern interrupt.
Rather than walking into like a marketing agency and just being a normal office, corporate
Oh,
office.
who wants that?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
And
they're
so many
gonna give
places look like that too.
Yeah, and
why
you
we
know
gotta
what?
make
They're
our
going to
office
develop your
ours,
brochures
Angie.
kind of in a Mad Lib format where they fill in the blanks.
That's
you know?
such a good idea. I'm like, wait a minute, that's a great fucking idea.
A
Like,
Mad Lib.
a Mad Lib brochure where people fill in what become
That's
their pain
fun.
points. And then like you open up and be like, yeah, guess what? We can fix them all or whatever.
So
Great
one of
idea.
the things
Yeah,
that
write it
I
down.
do is
Yeah, write it down.
I send out surveys, and so I will before I have a meeting with someone, I'll send them a fill in the blank, rate from 1 to 10. Tell me about your sales operation, and they rate themselves, and then I get this back before I meet them. I know their pain points. Tell me more about this. And I won't read it off the sheet. That would be rude. But I would say, so you're having problems. You're not having problems attracting people to talk to you. You're having problems closing them. Tell me more about that. How long has that been a problem? What else have you tried? Has that worked? How much do you think this is costing you? What's going to happen to the company if we don't fix this? You go boom, 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 boom.
Cue
boom.
the psychologist.
There's all the pain points, right?
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one. Pain,
Yeah.
pain. And pretty soon they're exhausted, lying on the floor, and they're all yours.
Help me.
It's not that simple.
So
But
make sure you follow John, the sales guy. 'Cause it's
Lying on the
what
ground.
Yeah, man.
no, but you will sound and act different than what they're expecting.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's good.
Absolutely.
All right, we got another question. This
Yeah,
one comes
baby.
from Facebook from Miss Maya. It says, "What sales techniques have you seen the biggest consumer difference? In what sales techniques have you seen the biggest consumer difference?"
I think we're seeing a shift right now in the way cars are being sold.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Like the car
unbelievable.
vending machines and stuff?
You've got Carvana and Vroom and all
Yep.
these, and the piece of marketing that I've seen watching football that's really interesting, where the world flips upside down. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
That on one side they're in a car lot, and they've got some guy in a plaid jacket, sleazy, slimy, however you want to describe a used car salesman, and then their world flips, and they're in their living room picking out their car on like an iPad, and a car comes up and delivers them. So they are now selling cars, bypassing
The salesy.
the dealer network, because they know. Right? They walk onto a car lot, you're playing defense as soon as you walk on, right?
Yeah.
And so they're presenting a different way of selling cars that you don't even have to deal with that. You don't even have to talk to anybody. if you don't want
That's
to.
crazy.
You do it all
I
online.
love it.
Yeah.
I want
love
My
it.
friend did
That's
it.
disruptive.
Carvana.
How'd that work out?
She said it was painless. She was from Penske. Yeah, she got a brand new car.
But the thing with that for me is, like, you don't get to test the car out.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you just know
Well, maybe
you
you
want
go
to buy that
to-
car?
Well, maybe you go to one near you and tested it, and then you can go home and buy it online.
Well, I guess you could do that.
I bought a car from CarMax. Now,
Oh, yeah.
they're pre-owned cars, but they buy a lot of off-lease cars and things like that. It was a great experience. It really was.
So, funny story real quick. So, I was a breakdown coordinator in Penske for a little while. And one of the calls that we got was a CarMax trailer. And one of the cars on top of the hood of the car, his car, was falling off. And we had to go and send out a tow truck to help him get the car back onto the carrier. I was like, oh my gosh.
The whole car was coming off.
Yeah,
the
it was how they come up and they drive him up on.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow he fell, it started
While
to
he was
fall.
doing it? Oh,
He was
shit.
delivering and it started to fall.
Nice job putting it together,
Yeah.
guys.
But I'm glad it was
I'm no
very
expert.
easy.
I'm no expert. That sounds like
your
a problem. Well, what was easy about it was I was buying a car for my wife. She didn't really care about the make and model. She cared more about the color of the wood and the interior. It's stuff that
Priorities.
Yeah, she has her priorities. But I remember it was a really good experience. You arrived, and door to door, it was about a half hour. Separate team gives you a value. That price is good for 30 days. They'll write you a check. You can just walk away if you want to and take that money and spend it somewhere else. And while they're doing that, you go for a test drive with the salesman, and then you almost it's almost like a retail experience when you pay for the car. Usually you go to a dealer and you sign.
You do all the
Yeah, everything
paperwork
like
and
that.
hours
It's just like buying a
and
house. It's bad. Well, they had it down to 3 signatures, and I'll take your check, Mr. Whitehall. It was
Wow.
that simple.
I wonder how that works when you have a lease.
no, maybe
Because maybe I should do Carvana instead.
that's cool.
Don't look at me like that.
I don't know, but that's like disruptive
Don't know what the heck you're talking about.
technology there.
Yeah.
Let me just say, not all car dealers are bad. Okay?
No.
It's
Yeah,
just, there was a time where I think they probably
Everybody was.
were.
Yeah.
Okay. Now going off of that, I actually have a question. So with I was talking to my dad about this maybe last week, with third-party businesses starting to be the new thing. You have DoorDash and then CarMax. That's a third-party service. Do you think that third-party services, their sales strategies are going to be different than, let's say, a regular sale, like a car salesman or something like that?
I feel like it would have a lot more marketing involved. right? Because you have to like story tell, like the whole Carvana thing. Like there's a whole story behind why.
And that commercial basically sold it.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Or even DoorDash, like making it very like well, I guess they're using pain points still, like, right? Like you don't want to go outside. Now it's COVID. It's a lot easier. You're just like, okay, fine.
Well, they're using more technology because they're still identifying the pain points. Like the commercial just said, the sleazy guy in a plaid jacket. That's why you don't even want to go on those lots.
That's right.
Because you're right. The second you get on there, you're in defense mode. Right. So they're showing you like you can hang out with sleazy man,
right,
or just do it on your iPad in the comfort of your own home. So they're identifying the bad shit.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I want to do CarMax. I want to do Carvana.
They're kind of looking at that process and they're saying, oh, here's where we can insert ourselves.
Yeah.
And make
like
it
where's
better.
the bottleneck, and that's where we'll be.
Be interesting to see if more of those kinds of businesses are continue to pop up.
I think they will.
Yeah. Because you just realize how much people want it. Like look at like even, I mean, Amazon was, you know, it's been around for a little while now, but I'm just thinking of like how convenient things are becoming. You know, like you can go to Giant and get your groceries and have them already like.
Well, I think
done.
Amazon started that, right? Amazon, like, I mean, I'm sure it happened in other ways, like with pizza. You know, pizza was being delivered first, but when people started realizing they could literally get anything through Amazon, and then they're like, well, why don't we do that with food? Why don't we do that with cars? Why don't we do that with anything? So now it's going to come to a point where you can literally do almost anything from a phone and have it delivered to your home because we're just lazy.
Yeah.
For the most part, you can. I mean,
Yeah.
Amazon.
I'm trying to think of anything that you can't. It's at the house.
Yeah.
I saw a story yesterday on how Sears Roebuck used to sell homes.
Yes.
Back in the day, they would deliver them. All the pieces were cut and everything. You just had to follow the instructions and build your homes. And they actually had, on Boardwalk Empire, the ATF agent actually talked about buying it and putting it together from Sears.
Yep.
And then I saw a story on it yesterday. It was remarkable, and how people were finding original blueprints in their homes that were built from like the 1900s to 1930s.
You see them along the Jersey Shore because there were, you know, back in the day, the railroad was really what got you to the beach. You know, and it was really the lack of air conditioning. Air conditioning hadn't been invented yet, so the well-to-do people would load their cars and everything on a flat car, and they'd go to the beach for the summer. And so if they wanted a house, there really weren't builders or the infrastructure there. So these Sears and Roebuck houses. So I'll tell you a funny story.
Crazy.
I had a friend down there who grew up in one of these houses, right? They call them bungalow houses. And when they finally laid streets, they discovered that he erected his house 3 blocks from the lot that he was supposed to be on. That's how early things was. And they just let it go.
That's great.
Well, it's almost at that point you're like, well.
But they're highly sought after homes because of what they are. You know, they're made from old growth timber. They've survived. And,
Oh, so I'm watching. You know, it's funny the old ways. I'm watching this show right now. I found on Hulu called 11/22/63. It's with James Franco's in it, and apparently he's supposed to try to stop the assassination of JFK. But there was this one section though in the beginning where the guy that passed away in like the first episode told him, "You're gonna love everything back then." He's like, everything tastes better. Like even the food tastes better. Like he sat there and was eating pie, which is probably made like normally back then.
Right.
He was like, this is the greatest pie ever. Point being is that seriously, everything back then was just made so much better.
Yeah. Made to
everything
last.
was made better. Made to last.
I even remember it as a kid. You know, my mother used to make, my mother's not Italian, no connection to anyone Italian. She made great spaghetti sauce as a kid. And when she got older, we asked her to make it again. None of us had it in 20 or 30 years, and it was horrible. And it's because all of the, sorry, Mom, but I mean, it was really because all the ingredients had changed. And to your point, right, it just wasn't as good as it used to be, even using the same ingredients.
That's true. Yeah.
Do we have any questions? Because I have one if not.
Yes, I do have a follow-up from Maya. She says, going forward, do you think with these new online sales methods, they'll become more popular and convenient, or is there a market where old school sales will be just as successful?
Well, I think there's always going to be people like myself who want to see it, touch it. You know, we're more kinesthetic type people. That's very much me. But, you know, I am split down the middle because if it's convenient and I don't have to walk into a store and get it,
I think it depends
I'm good
on
with
the
that.
generations, honestly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the
Right.
newspapers only exist enough for older people. Like literally, because they actually still read the paper and the yellow pages.
Right.
Like I was talking with Russ,
Oh,
and
yeah, the yellow pages.
The yellow pages is just for them though. They go in there looking for the lawyer, the plumber, because it's just how they were brought up and how they do things.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's a great question, but I think it's going to depend on
How
like
long will
when
they
my
last?
generation's gone. I don't know if you even need it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Like-
even look at Blockbuster, gone.
Yeah, but
Like-
it's just you guys are so used to doing everything, like especially Angie's generation. They just do it on the phone. It's almost like, oh, look at this great thing. I'm just gonna get it. They look at the reviews,
Yeah.
see if the reviews are good, and if they are, they'll order it.
Yep.
So so I think it's just a generational thing. Where 2 more generations, it's gone.
But COVID, and I read an article yesterday or the day before, I think it was in the New York Times, and they were talking about seniors are now embracing online buying. Right? And so there's this whole other generation that you would think it's just going to age out and
Yeah.
then disappear. And suddenly now they're noticing this trend.
It's like the new school infomercials. Like when you would sit on the couch with your phone, like in the stereotypical movies. Like you see the old person just sitting on a couch watching the infomercials or whatever, then she'll call and buy it. I guess it's like a new age version of that.
Yeah, because my boyfriend's mom, she goes during COVID. There was like a local little knickknack store or something, and they would have like the infomercial, like just like almost like, you know, like, oh, this is a beautiful mug and it's $5 and comment and we'll if you want it and send in your money and then we'll like have it for curbside. So she was like doing this with there's like at least 50 ladies watching this lady just go around her store and like,
It's
this
like
is this
QVC
and this
on
yeah
Facebook.
QVC, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I was like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. She's just like shopping virtually and she just
Well, it's true because like look at TikTok, right? TikTok has all kinds of ages on there. I know a lot of times you think, well, if it's a new social network, it's for younger people. No,
There's
man,
so many
TikTok is
young-
I
old
think it's the
people.
only one where I've literally seen
A
like
big range.
both sides of the spectrum, man. People on there, you know, doing all kinds of stuff. So yeah, COVID has definitely changed some people to do that. Some people still didn't change, which was
I don't buy almost
unfortunate.
anything online. I don't buy any clothes. I don't buy.
You know, I've tried clothes a few
don't
times.
like
It's
buying-
always unless it's t-shirts.
It's not the right size.
Yeah, it's
And I
just
spend more money in hassle going back, and then half the time I
Yeah.
don't because I'm just like, I'll just
See,
sell it on Facebook Marketplace, so I don't have to deal with it.
See, and I've become brand loyal, so I know where to buy my shirts. I know where I even buy shoes online now.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I just know these brands fit me.
Yeah.
Right.
yes.
Right.
That's a
so,
good- yeah.
so yeah. So if it's a brand, you know, let me tell you, if I never have to walk into another mall in my life,
I
I'll be
know.
a happy guy.
Yeah, I could give two
know.
shits about a mall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care about malls. They do nothing for me anymore. It used to be cool. It used to be a thing to do. I don't really
I think
get
Berkshire's going out of business in a few years.
it. Who?
Berkshire.
Oh yeah,
Well,
Right.
I
I mean,
think,
there's a
I
lot of
think they
malls.
all are. People-
Yeah.
There's malls now that are just
But, you know,
going
if we
out.
think about how this process of how things evolve, right? So you remember when there was a MySpace,
Yeah.
right? So,
we talked
and we all laughed, but it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
16, 17 years ago, something like that. In fact, my daughter's a photographer, and that's where she started her business, was on MySpace. So I think what COVID has done, it's just accelerated this evolutionary process, maybe 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
It's just pushed that process forward. So
Yeah.
the future is here now.
Yes.
So I have a question I wanted to ask you. So
Do you want me to put you in pain again?
No.
I'll do it.
no, that is such a like reality
John
check.
likes it.
I honestly felt so bad for Whitley.
I'm like, nope,
Deer in
sucking over
headlights.
here.
It's S&M with Freddie and John.
Sales and marketing. S&M. That's great.
Huh? Let's do
S&M.
that.
Another
See,
sticker.
with Freddie-
Oh,
John
you,
and
know, you
Freddie.
know what that is? That's marketing.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my
S&M with
gosh.
Johnny and Freddie. Hey.
Yeah, we'd have the whip sound and say, "Hey, Freddie likes
Welcome
it."
to S&M. That's how we like it.
That
Oh
would be
my
a good
gosh.
segment.
Imagine
I
that.
There you
like
Welcome
go.
to S&M. That's how we like it. Just
There it is. Stuff
There's
is,
the intro. Sales
Get a
and
really
marketing
interesting
after
crowd
dark.
That way.
Yeah. Okay, so give me an example of who you have been sold to or sold by. I don't know how you say that. Sold. by?
So-
Someone sells you something and you were very impressed, or like, can you give an example?
So
'Cause you're probably like always like when someone's trying to sell you something, you're like, oh, they're doing this wrong or that. But you ever been impressed?
I don't ever do that. But when
Okay.
people impress me,
Yeah.
I let them know. And so I do this a lot in retail because I find that just, the state of customer service in that world is so
sad.
awful. The bar's really low. And when someone really impresses me, I'll just say, "Is your boss in today?" And they'll get really nervous, and they'll say, "Yeah, why?" And I'll say, "I want to tell them what a great job you do." And the managers of these stores are used to hearing all the crap. All they hear is bad stuff. And so they kind of timidly come over and say, "Yeah, this guy wants to talk to you." And I just say, "I just want to let you know what a great job Freddie did. Next time you have a stand-up with your crew, he deserves to be recognized. In fact, you should give him a raise. This guy is really good. I train sales and customer service people for a living, and I go out of my way to let their bosses know this." Right? And people are shocked. My wife is like, "Oh my God, he's going to do this again." Right? But it's not too often. But the last time I did it was up the street. I bought myself a pair of cross trainer shoes, and they put me through. Is it Fleet Feet? And
Fleet Feet, yeah.
and they measure your feet. They take movies of your feet. They have you walk across this touchpad. And then they bring you out like 3 choices. And they were all like great, But I remember that the salesperson really was good, really knew his stuff. Never felt pressure, felt comfortable. He's asking me what I'm going to use these for. And I talked to the owner of the store. And I met the owner of the store, wrote him a Google review. Yeah. So when I see it, it's great. Now, if I hear my own technique, if I hear Sandler stuff coming, I just stop him and say, "Your voodoo mind tricks aren't going to work on me." I'll say, "Where did you get your training?" Because if it is a pain discussion or an upfront contract or any of the vehicles that we use to put structure into our call, I'll recognize them. I'll say, "Okay, who is your trainer?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're in a whole other conversation with them. It's kind of cool. Everything becomes really easy then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah. I
Angie,
know.
we got anything else?
Let me check here.
I'm sorry, Whitley, did I cut you off?
No.
Okay, then.
Oh yeah, somebody on TikTok said you guys look miserable. So
What?
smile.
Glad we look miserable. We've been laughing
Wow.
this whole time.
Maybe they're miserable.
Sir. Huh?
Maybe they're miserable.
They are.
Maybe.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, you're
It's okay, Karen.
And what the male version's Ken?
No.
No, it's
Kevin.
Kyle.
I think Kevin's a funny name.
All right there, Karen. Yeah, Karen works for all of them.
Karen and Kevin.
I still call a dude Karen.
I know.
It's
You're
even worse.
Karen.
It's like, all right, Karen. All right, Karen.
Susan.
All right, if anybody has questions, drop your questions. This is a final call.
That's right. Last call, baby. Last call. We got a few minutes left here on Fred Talk Live.
Yes.
Don't forget, every Tuesday, 1:30 p.m. Eastern, right here, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And it's going to be posted on YouTube every Thursday after the show. By the time you wake up, you're going to see that beautiful, beautiful video on YouTube. You can watch it all over again. Experience the greatness all over again. Don't forget to follow my man, John Whitehall. Brand new TikTok account, John the Sales Guy. You need to get on it. Don't you forget. Don't you ever forget to get on there and help this guy out. And don't forget, every Wednesday we also do Q&A live.
Yeah. And apparently without me on other days.
Yes, I do random Q&As. I did one last night. I did it last night. It's always fun, and we're always giving away T-shirts on all of our Q&As, all of our lives. We love giving away T-shirts. And look for the brand new FXV Digital online shop. We're going to be selling crazy stuff like these great mugs and hoodies. I know Whitley's rocking a hoodie today, and we're going to have T-shirts for sale. We're going to be selling all kinds of things. So make sure you check us out on fxvdigital.com. And for you crazy kids that want some information, go on there, fill out a form, and we'll definitely want to work with you guys, man. So we have any last-minute questions, thoughts, comments? What do we got?
So just for fun, because I want to know, John, you've worked in the sales for God knows how long.
Way too long.
I just want to know, do you have any sales story that's funny or sticks out to you? That
Like my crab story.
yeah, just anything that was just like iconic in your sales
Memories.
career.
Well, yeah. So we teach this concept of bonding and rapport, and this is, how do you get closer to people? How do you build trust? And this person I knew who was in Texas in a former life, out of my Texas office. He was my sales manager, and he had a sales rep, and they were going to see this client who they could never get, a sniff of business from. And finally, they get a meeting. And so my manager walks in with the sales rep, and the sales rep says, "Hey, that's a really good picture of you and John Madden." And the client says, "That's not John Madden, that's my wife."
Oh my
And as he was being escorted out of the building, he says to his boss in his very short-lived career at that point, he says, "Well, you got to admit, she did look a lot like John Madden."
Oh my God.
That was a good one.
Ah, man, I wish I could have been there for that.
Wow.
Imagine that.
Wow.
Oh my
Since
God.
we were talking about money, and this wasn't a first-hand story, this was a story someone else told me, a guy who does what I do. He said, "Let me talk to the sales guy." He gets him on the phone. You're talking to him. He says, "What can I get for $400?" He says, "Well, for $400, I'll come over and I'll sit with you. I'll listen to you, and maybe we'll come up with some recommendations." He says, "Okay, fine, I'll be over there." He goes over and he sees the guy, and he says, "Listen, you put together a program for me. You're our man. Give me your best price." So he goes back. He drums up a quote. And the bottom line price is $4 million. And the guy picks up the phone and he says, "Hey, I told you to give me your best price." He says, "That was the highest number I thought I could get away with."
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
shit.
There's some
I
good
wish
stories.
I could do that. I've done that, though. I've done that. Not $4 million, but.
Yeah, right.
And they've said yes, and I'm like, fuck. What's happening?
Let's try that again.
Let's try it again.
Oh.
All right, man. Well, John,
Great question.
Yeah.
thanks
you.
for coming down, bro. And
Thanks
just
for
sharing
having
some
me.
knowledge
This was a
and,
great honor.
Stories
and having
and-
conversations with us. We love doing it. And
I have one last thing. It'll be really quick. Someone asked if we're expanding the team.
yeah, we're always
You're
expanding the team.
local.
We're looking for a web developer. If you are a web developer proficient in WordPress, please send me your resume. But you got to work in house. We don't do things remotely. I know it's not the most popular thing to say these days, but if you know anything about FXV Digital Design, we don't give a what. That's how we do it here. We have people come on in, and creativity happens in house. Man, doesn't happen over Zoom, ever. So if you're a web developer, WordPress.
In the Reading area.
In the Reading area, give me
Or
a shout.
Berks.
We would love
if you want
to
to drive.
have you come in, and but you got to be good. All right.
He
And-
can't train you.
No, I don't have time to train WordPress right now. I don't. I can't do it. I need people to rock and roll.
Yep.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And don't forget, every Tuesday, 1:30 p.m., we have Fred Talk live right here, Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah. We'll definitely have to
Facebook.
have you back.
Oh, I'd be honored. Thank
Yeah,
you.
man.
We
The
got
next time you
S&M
come back
now,
in, we're going to do
apparently.
S&M.
All right,
I
S&M.
really love
S&M.
that for a
Freddie
YouTube
likes it.
series.
Yeah.
I think it's so
Ooh,
funny.
Yeah.
That's how I like it.
I
Yep.
think it's so funny.
S&M with
To dim the
John
lights.
Fred.
Oh my god.
Oh,
We
yeah,
get a really
S&M.
interesting
And Whitley
crowd.
goes, Whitley's like, oh, my
Okay,
God.
okay, let's go walk over here.
We're going to figure that out. That's awesome. S&M with Johnny
Oh,
and
well,
Fred.
thank you
We
so
get our
much, guys. I
creep
hope
on.
you guys have a good rest of your week. And tomorrow, again, TikTok, we will be live noon. Noon
Sounds
seemed
good.
good. All right, and yeah.
Thanks,
That's
everybody.
it.
Appreciate you guys.
It's a
Thanks
wrap.
See you
everybody for
tomorrow.
tuning in.